Hello everybody, welcome back on Unversed Podcast. Danny here. Today we're going to be talking about Gigant. Now, this is by Hiroya Oku. Now, this name may sound familiar. This is the guy that did Gantz, as well as Inuyashiki. I've reviewed both before, so, if you want to check the backlog, go ahead, check the backlog for that. Listen to my thoughts on there. This is his newest manga. Now, it's only at 25 chapters right now. And I figured, I want to read it just to read it. This is the new thing from Gantz guy. Let's see what he can bring to the table, because Inuyashiki I thought was interesting. That's a good manga. And, reading this, it's like, I see, Gantz had some weird shit, right? There was some weird stuff in there. But at the end of the day, it was still a really good manga. Action sci-fi, And then they're like, okay, go ahead, what's your next work? Inuyashiki, sounds a little weird, but let's go for it. That gets really popular, gets an anime even. And they're like, okay, cool. Now what do you have to bring to the table for us? And he comes in with Gigant and even weirder shit, Also, if you're gonna read this, right, I think you should read Gantz and and Inuyashiki first. Read this guy's previous work first, so that way you have an understanding of how his writing process works, right? 25 chapters in, we still have no idea what this is really about, I guess start off real quick, the art, of course, is amazing as always. Though it just caught me off guard real quick in the first chapter, because this guy also decides to use a lot of CG in his manga. Sounds weird, right? But yeah, he uses 3D models and stuff sometimes. He actually uses photographs as well, and screenshots from things. One of the main characters has a PS4, and on the screen it's just a screenshot of the homepage and stuff. So stuff like that could be jarring. But other than that, art's solid, especially when you get into some spread shots of fight scenes or something like that. And yeah, he just advances that even further here. The first, the cover page for the first chapter, it's all in color. And it's you could see he drew stuff. And then there's also like photography in there as well. It kind of threw me off for a loop real quick. But yeah, solid stuff as always, So we have our main character, Yamada Yoko, high school student, freshman, right? 16. His father is a producer for movies, and which of course makes Yamada here a big fan of movies. We see this shot of his room, everything movies. You got Terminator, Aliens, Predator, all the good stuff from a classic era. And that's his dream, to be a film director, And of course, there's only one problem, though. He's struggling at school. He just doesn't really care. He's just so focused on movies. But he is socially awkward, right? He doesn't really know how to interact with people. We only really see him talk to one friend and I guess some other people, because they were planning to write a movie and shoot a movie for one of their classes. And they asked one of the pretty girls in class, right? Hey, do you want to star in this? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then when she showed up on the day to film, she's like, I'm sorry, but my boyfriend said no, walked away. And then they just get sad, so now they have to rewrite it or look for a different actress, this and that. And of course, like any young youth male, he's a fan of porn, right? And he has a favorite AV actress. Oh god, what was her name again? Let me just bring up the synopsis. Well, yeah, she's got some big knockers, if you know what I'm saying. She's got the big bops, as you would describe it, right? He owns like all of her whole collection, basically. And one day he's walking back home, he sees a flyer on one of the walls, and it says, hey, this porn actress lives here. And he's like, what? And the porn actress's name is Papiko. There you go. And him being socially awkward, I guess, also plays a part to it, because now he's freaking out. He's like, oh my God, what? And he's looking all over the place for other stuff like that. He's just constantly on his phone on Twitter looking at updates of where she's at, basically, you know. And then, you know, he's getting mouthed off at home, like, hey, if your grades are going to keep doing this, you're going to have to go to cram school. He doesn't want to, but what are you going to do? So he's just getting sad from all that stuff piling up. And then I guess for some reason he just decides, you know what? Fuck it. So he leaves in the middle of the night. He goes to where all these papers are. Like, it's just this whole wall. Like, you know, like downtown LA, how you just have like one long strip of wall on a street, and it has like multiple posters to promote one thing. So he goes over there. He takes down all the papers saying that she's here and whatnot. I don't think we never really got a reason, like a real reason, you know. And while he's doing this, you hear somebody behind him saying like, are you the one that put those up? And he turns around and it's Papiko, right? The actress. And he's like, holy shit. Like, you know, he's like freaking out, so nervous, sweating and all that. He was like, no, I'm a fan. And, you know, I saw these, so I wanted to take them down. And, you know, they start talking for a little bit. She's like, well, can I thank you? So they go eat and they're talking, and, you know, he's like kind of getting awkward and stuff. And she's like, well, how about we be friends? You know? So they exchange line contact. You know, Line's a very popular Japanese app, for texting and all that kind of stuff. And then she follows him on Twitter and all this stuff, you know? Now, just take a step back and think like, man, after everything I just said, how is this from the Gantz guy? You know, how is this from, like, Yoshiki? I can understand there was more wholesome, like, where there's more down to earth stuff, but still, like, this is like the first, maybe 4 or 5 chapters of this manga, you know, a quarter of what's out right now, or a fifth of what's out right now. And it's like, okay, like, where is this going? You know, like, what, like, Gigant, like, okay, we see the name. You don't understand. So the problem this manga has is its pacing. Now, the pacing, I think it's fine. You know, you get a lot of character development, right? A lot of relationships get stronger, the chemistry of characters. You know, you kind of get a feel for it, even though there's not that many characters being shown. You have our main character, you have the porn actress, her shitty boyfriend, you know, our main character's parents, his friend, and that's pretty much it. You know, as far as like things that matter. I mean, there's one other character we could get into later, but aside from that, like, that's pretty much it. So the pacing, again, it's fine. It's just, you should have resolved this in a lot fewer chapters, especially when you finally get to one big action piece. And then it like here's all the hype and build up, like, oh God, yeah, like this is the stuff I've been waiting for from this guy. And then after it happens, it hits the brakes, goes back into its normal pace it's been doing. So it's up in the air for me, you know. I guess I really should have waited for more chapters to come out, because now that I'm caught up and I have to wait, and I'm like, do I really feel like waiting for something that's gonna take forever to get to something even more interesting? I mean, I guess. I don't know. That's why I say you should probably read Gantz and Inuyashiki. You should probably read Inuyashiki first, really. This Gigant's the closest to it as far as the similarities, but there's also like some Gantz tier stuff in Gigant towards the where we're at currently. So yeah, they become friends, you know, they hang out every now and then, they talk, and while all this is happening in the background, there's this website that has like a poll that says like, hey, what do you want to come true? There's 4 options. Whatever gets the most votes will get selected, and if that can get 100,000 whatever, it will come true. And stuff like that started coming true. There's this weird guy, this weird old man just walking around in his underwear with a baseball cap. He gets hit by a car one day when the porn actress Papiko is walking around. He chooses her, or whatever he says, slaps on like this Omnitrix looking device under her wrist, on her, I guess, right hand. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, so that guy gets slapped on. She freaks out, like, what is this? Oh, I can't film with this on. And while she's in the bathroom, she decides to mess with it. It's like a dial. She moves it, right? Number increases, her size, like, she got bigger. She became like a giant, you know? And it's like, oh, okay. And she's kind of freaking out. She doesn't know what to do. She goes to her boyfriend, who's a NEET, right? All he does is play video games. I don't really think he works at all. At least from the content we got in here, it doesn't look like he works at all. And, what's his solution? Yo, hit up your manager. You could do some porn with this, you know? And he's also the abusive type, so she's not really one to say no, and then she ends up doing it, but she still feels uneasy about it, doesn't know who to talk to. So she hit up our boy, right? Yamada Yoko. And the old man that when he got hit and gave her this Omnitrix thing also gave her a DVD, and he turned into a doll. So that's where the weird Gantz shit comes in, right? Anyways, this guy's watching it, and he's like, yeah, that's some cool CG. And then she actually shows this kid, like, oh no, actually I can't turn giant. He's like, what? Oh, okay. And when she did that, right, of course her clothes ripped, so now she's naked. And right when her boyfriend walks into the room, when they're both in there and she's naked, and he's like, what the fuck is this? You know? And of course, like, he starts wailing on Yamada. It's Yamada, right? Anyways, and of course, you know, her with her abusive relationship, she doesn't really want to retaliate, and she's trying to calm him down with words, and finally she decides no, turns giant, kicks him, picks him up by the collar, and just kind of holds him there until he calms down. She explains the situation, he doesn't want to hear it, he just leaves, breaks up with her basically. So now she's living by herself, she's getting sad all the time. You know, and then there's this deal with her family, like basically she's making the money. Most of her money goes to her parents and or just I guess her family in general. Her mother got injured, and it's like, oh, hey, you can cover that, right? It's not a big deal. She's like, yeah, sure. Which is also a part similar to how you should read Inuyashiki. Inuyashiki has similar things to where, like, our main character is this sweet old man, you know, but his family doesn't care for him. Similar to here where Papiko, she, you know, she's a porn actress. Her brother says, hey, that's kind of embarrassing because then my friends bring you up because they've seen your stuff. That's weird. And then, you know, her mother is just like, you're still doing that horrible business, but they're not telling her to stop because they're getting money from her, right? This is a trope that this mangaka likes, I guess. And, so yeah, she just sad all this, doesn't know who to talk to. Her only friend is Yamada, you know, this high school kid. And, you know, he finally tries to break out of his antisocial shell and asks her to be her boyfriend, you know, and eventually she agrees because he ends up bawling out crying at a restaurant that they go to. Because at first she said no. She's like, no, I like you as a friend, and, you know, I can only see this, like, going downhill type of deal. Anyway, so they start dating, they finally have sex, and she's just like, oh shit, like, I can't believe we did that. I could be arrested, because remember, he's 16 and she's 24, and I was like, whoa, okay, we'll see where this goes. But then, you know, we see they fall in love with each other. Some Gantz tier stuff, for sure. As far as, like, how much they love each other, there's a lot of that in Gantz. And, yeah, so all's going well, and then eventually, you know, we get this big action piece where they're like, oh, let's summon, like, some god of destruction or whatever to, like, kill 1 million people in this main area. And, that's where our main character is at. She freaks out, decides to go into a giant and fight, which is the whole purpose of this little Omnitrix device, right? Because we see New York, there's another old man, and he's fighting the freaking Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. So there's a lot of weird stuff in this manga, guys. It's, I don't know, it's you really have to read his previous work to, really appreciate what he's trying to do or even understand why he's writing like this. I think it's alright for now, you know. I should come back when it's either finished or when we get pretty far along into the manga, because yeah, right now 25 chapters, there's really nothing going on. Like, the only reason you were reading this manga is probably because you're a fan of Hiroya, you know, because of Gantz and Inuyashiki. So it's one of those weird mangas, man, where you're just like, I just have to accept the fact that eventually it's going to be something I like. So I only recommend this if you've read Gantz or Inuyashiki, because I think coming in here cold turkey, you're just gonna be disinterested. You're just gonna drop it. Because I don't know. I think it can have potential. This guy's writing is great. It's just he's taking forever to decide what to do with this manga. Like, there's really nothing interesting going on. The two main things is, okay, there's this website that's bringing anything to prediction come true based off what they answer. And then we just have certain individuals in countries that could grow giant, So we'll see what he does. I don't know, because as good as Gantz is, there was a point where I got disappointed as well. I don't know if I mentioned it in the review, but basically, like, they introduced vampires in a sense, right, that hated Gantz, right? And so, like, that was an enemy faction for a point. I was like, oh, this is getting interesting. Just vanished once, like, the Osaka arc happened. Like, we've never saw them again. And that's disappointing because, like, they were potentially a threat, But then, like, the scale of danger escalated, towards the end of Gantz, and it kind of just ended, because that's the story of our main character. Like, his story's over. So, I don't know. It should have been, other stuff could have happened. But anyways, Gigant, eventually read it, once you've read his previous work, like I keep saying. I think that's the only way to truly enjoy what he's writing, I guess, because it is weird. It's weird at the end of the day. It's just this weird shit that they're letting him do because of how successful he is as a mangaka, like, it's a hard argument to buy volume 1 of Gigant, because literally nothing happens. It's just some slice of life stuff with this antisocial kid who's in love with a porn actress, and she has an abusive boyfriend. So, I mean, that's kind of really it. There's really nothing insane going on until later down the lines, which even then, the craziest stuff is just, this God Destruction showed up, or whatever his name was, and that's kind of it. So hopefully we see this more of a scaling thing, but I don't know, we'll see, because there's some conflict right now with Papiko, like, she's in prison and all that, because it's like, well, look what you did to Tokyo or wherever they were. So there's also that. And yeah, I think I will be coming back to this manga at some point. So while we wait for that, if you want to stay caught up with us, that's Unversed Podcast anywhere you go on social media. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, what did you think of Gigant? I would love to hear your thoughts, especially if you've never read his other work. That would be interesting. But you can email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com for that. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be looking out for these weeks, dropping episodes here and there. It's going to be some good content. And of course, always check out Marvel Talk and BFM Podcast. Links in description as always for all that stuff. So thanks for listening, guys. Let's just sit back and enjoy some music.
Gigant.